The managerial merry-go-round has been in full swing as usual this season. Here are some of the notable firings that have taken place since August. In Italy, we had Paulo Fonseca losing his job at AC Milan, Şahin at Borussia Dortmund, Sean Dyche at Everton. In the Premier League, been quite a few sackings in the Premier League. Steve Cooper going at Leicester, Erik ten Hag, of course, at Manchester United. Two managers have been out since the start of the season at Roma. Daniele De Rossi was first, then Ivan Juric after that. Julian Lopetegui at West Ham back in the Premier League, and then Gary O'Neill at Wolves. We're going to start, Stefano, by talking about Erik ten Hag losing his job at Manchester United, of course, replaced by Ruben Amorim on the 1st of November. Was it a good idea, is the loaded question.
I mean, yes, the idea was good. Erik ten Hag clearly just it wasn't cutting it. He wasn't cutting it there. Had some issues with the players. It was, I think, too far gone for Erik ten Hag at that point to continue on as a manager of Manchester United. There was too much out there. It was a rotten situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, wasn't it a case that winning the FA Cup the season previously kind of papered over the cracks? It was a stay of execution. I do credit the club for giving him the opportunity at the start of the season. I think he deserved that. But he didn't prove anything, did he, from August onwards?
It didn't get any better. It continued on this track where, and then the pressure, like you said, I mean, you're talking about a club like Manchester United. It gets very complicated and very heated if you don't win games. And there was just too many poor performances, too many issues with players, too many, uncertainty with the squad. It was time for Erik ten Hag. And you saw here, I mean, there has been a reaction from Manchester United since the arrival of Ruben Amorim. I think ultimately, this is a bigger issue than just the manager. This is an issue of squad, that they don't have the correct players to play the system that either of these two managers wanted to play. Ruben Amorim coming in, obviously, with Erik ten Hag's squad and having to make some changes. I don't think we can judge Ruben Amorim until we see him go through a summer transfer window.
A lot of reports around the club suggest that Ruben Amorim actually wanted to take the job in the summer, but felt that he was maybe pressured into taking it in November at this point in the season. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, do you think that might have been a better decision to stick with it for the season and then get Ruben Amorim over the summer?
For the club, no. I think the club needed to get Erik ten Hag out. I think it had become a rotten situation. For Ruben Amorim, yeah, he wishes it would have happened in the summer to not have to deal with everything that he's had to deal with so far this season at United. It's been a brutal arrival and a really big awakening for a fantastic manager who has had success in Europe. But it's not. It's a roster issue. It's a management issue. There's loads of stories out there about the cost cutting and different things that are happening at Manchester United. It's kind of a perfect storm for Ruben Amorim to get here and just feel that pressure instantly. But I think if you're a United fan, you're happy with at least what you've seen from him, his attitude towards the players, towards the team, not trying to sugarcoat anything, saying that they need to be better all around. But again, you got to give him time. I hope it's not where, he's not on the hot seat or anything just yet, because you have to give him a summer transfer window to be able to prove that he can build the squad that he wants to build.
What happens if Manchester United don't win the Europa League? And given the way they've played this season in all the other competitions, you probably wouldn't think that they would do. How crucial is that for Ruben Amorim? Or was it just a case of give him the rest of the season, he can assess the squad, and the rebuild is coming?
I think that. I think that it would be very harsh to let him go if he doesn't win a trophy this season with this very, very flawed squad that he has and he was inherited from Erik ten Hag and Manchester United. There's so much wrong with the squad in the midfield, at all levels, in the midfield, in attack, and they just aren't gelling as a team. There are clearly issues, and the way that he wants to build this team is very different from the way that Erik ten Hag built this squad. So I think it would be very harsh if they don't win a trophy that they would let Amorim go without really, truly giving him an opportunity to build a team. I don't suspect that will happen, and I also don't suspect them winning any trophies this season, and that Europa League obviously being their opportunity. I don't see that happening. I hope it doesn't mean it doesn't cost Amorim his job.
Let's move on to another managerial change in European football, which hasn't exactly been a roaring success, shall we, at AC Milan. Paulo Fonseca losing his job, Sergio Conceição coming in. It all started brilliantly. We had the cigars in the dressing room after he won the Supercopa, but after that, it's been pretty desperate.
Yeah, it's not been good, and this is a difficult one too, because you speak to Milan fans and you'll get differing opinions on, very wildly differing opinions on this, where some were saying that it really wasn't on Fonseca, that Fonseca should have been given a little bit more time to get this team right, to maybe go through the winter transfer window and try to find something else to add to this squad. They made the decision. They went with Conceição, and like you said, it seemed like it was a dream start. They win Supercoppa Italiana, defeating Inter in the final, their biggest rivals. Cigars. It was a celebration in the locker room. Vibes were high, but it's all turned very quickly. And again, it comes down to the fact that this squad is, again, flawed. I do think that Conceição is a decent manager. I believe Fonseca maybe got a little bit was taken out of there, I think, a bit too quickly. I think that there was still something for Fonseca to be able to show. But as we've seen in some of these clubs, these massive clubs, like a Milan, if you're underperforming this much, the pressure just gets too high, and ultimately it costs them their job.
They did spend money over the January transfer window. They're probably the only team really in Italian football who kind of went big and brought in some experienced players, the likes of Kyle Walker and others too. So it's not like they didn't change up the squad when Sergio Conceição had already joined as manager. How does he go about changing it around? Does he need a rebuild in the summer? Because when you look at a lot of these players, they are pretty good.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be some type of rebuild. I'm sure that they're going to be looking for maybe another striker, maybe somebody who fits the profile a little bit better of what Conceição wants to build. I would have to say that nowadays, with the amount of fixtures that these teams play, there is not a lot of time to work on your actual tactics on the training ground. It's become a very difficult task to be able to truly work through what you want these teams, your team to play as a manager at the top level when you have games every 2 or 3 days. And it continues on for this, a side like a Milan that have kind of just fallen down a rabbit hole because they don't have time, and it's one match after the next, and no time in between to truly recover the players just from a fitness standpoint to then work on the tactics and the way that he wants to play. I think that it's going to take more time, and a full preseason with Conceição, it could work out better for this Milan side.
You also certainly personally feel, from what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, particularly in the aftermath of losing in the Champions League, is the issue at AC Milan. I mean, you've got issues with some of the players on the pitch, Sergio Conceição as well on the touchline, but also it's a hierarchical problem there. You've got Zlatan Ibrahimovic coming out post-match and doing some of these interviews. Almost too many cooks spoil the broth situation where it's like, who's in charge, who's making the decisions at the club? Sort that out, and maybe some of the problems on the pitch will be sorted too.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because they do have some players that are dedicated to the club, that love playing there. I mean, Christian Pulisic as well, he said multiple times that he loves it there, he wants to stay, he wants to make it, wants to win trophies with this Milan side. You have a lot of players that are dedicated to the club and want to give everything they have to the shirt, but it just might not be good enough at times, right? And if they're not able to build off of what they're continuing to see on the pitch, it gets really difficult for them to move forward.
OK, let's move over to German football now. There was a big change at Borussia Dortmund. Nuri Şahin obviously losing his job, didn't even last a full season there. It was Niko Kovač who was brought in, still in 10th place in the Bundesliga, so no change there. Has Niko Kovač worked? Because I think the issue for Borussia Dortmund is it's a tale of two competitions, because they're still going in the Champions League, and it's been very, very poor for them in German football. Certainly a club of their size would not be expected to be in 10th in the table. Do you think Niko Kovač just almost needs to cut his losses in terms of domestic football and focus all of his efforts in trying to keep going in the Champions League?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think that their Bundesliga season is over. They've had a lot of very difficult and shocking defeats in the Bundesliga. Look, I think it is a good move. I think that the days of Nuri Şahin came to an end. They probably even, in my opinion, let it go a bit too long, and they had a couple of defeats that were just so much worse than what you're expected to see from a Borussia Dortmund side. Kovač is a manager with a ton of experience. He comes in and will now be, focused on the Champions League. Move forward. You face a Lille side that, you should be favored. Borussia Dortmund should be the favorite in that tie against Lille, so they could move on to the quarterfinals, and then anything can happen. We saw it last year. This is a team that can turn it on at the right time and win and be in the Champions League final, as we saw last season. So I do think that the move to Kovač was a positive one, because it just was not working with Nuri Şahin. And now you have the experience of Kovač to push this team forward in Europe, but that was where the focus needs to be. And I'm talking not even just the focus of the manager, but also the focus of the players, and making sure you have the correct players out there on the pitch in the Champions League, maybe even rotate for the Bundesliga.
And the long-term view for him, I think, will be to just sort out the back line, because going forward, they've got Guirassy and some other players. It's okay and that end of the pitch, but they've got to sort out the defence for next season. And just finally, at Leicester, of course, Steve Cooper lost his job earlier on this season. They were really, really struggling under him, and it was Ruud van Nistelrooy who came in to replace Steve Cooper. And, well, they were in a relegation battle when Cooper left, and they're still mired in a relegation battle now. But personally, having watched a lot of the Premier League and a lot of Leicester this season, you just feel that this squad and the first 11 just wasn't good enough. It wasn't a problem with the manager, really. It was just the players aren't good enough.
Yeah, it's obviously sad. You never want to see that, but yeah, this Leicester side was just not good enough. Still relying on some veteran players that, Jamie Vardy's still at this point having to be your leader in a Premier League side is not ideal for any team. And Leicester City, with as much history as they've had in this competition and incredible as it's been, I don't think it would have mattered who the manager was. This team not prepared to compete or to even be a mid-table side in the Premier League.
Does Van Nistelrooy keep his job and manage them in the Championship next season if they go down?
I'm not sure. There's a lot of rumors as well with Van Nistelrooy. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I do think that it'll be good for him to have that opportunity and to stay, but it will be. I think it's a long build back, and you're going to have to make a lot of changes to this squad, even down in the Championship.